Shadow Attorney General Michaelia Cash, who shared her perspective on pressing national issues. Beginning with the ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, Cash expressed a cautious optimism shared by many observers globally. She highlighted the importance of the hostage deal while acknowledging the precariousness of the situation. In her view, the comments made by President-elect Donald Trump about the consequences of failing to finalize an agreement likely influenced the negotiators' sense of urgency. Domestically, however, Cash criticized the Australian Prime Minister for what she described as a lack of decisive leadership, particularly regarding the rise of antisemitism since the events of October 7, 2023. She accused the Prime Minister of prioritizing political gain in certain electorates over taking a firm stance against antisemitism. Cash emphasized the need for robust policy measures to address what she labeled a national scourge, referencing recent incidents, such as those in Dover Heights, to underscore her point. She expressed frustration with what she perceives as repetitive, ineffectual responses from the government. According to Cash, statements of condemnation and calls for tolerance are insufficient at this stage, given the alarming rise in anti-Semitic incidents. She pointed to the government's appointment of an anti-Semitism envoy, Gillian Siegel, as an example of superficial action. While acknowledging Siegel's recommendations, including penalties for hate crimes, jail time for perpetrators, and convening a national cabinet, Cash argued that the government has failed to act on these suggestions meaningfully. Cash contended that the appointment of the envoy may have been a political move aimed at appeasing the Jewish community rather than a genuine commitment to addressing antisemitism. She urged Australians to evaluate the Prime Minister's leadership based on his record, asserting that his actions reflect betrayal of national values. She warned of the potential consequences of a second-term government led by the Prime Minister, particularly if it relied on support from the Australian Greens, describing such a scenario as detrimental to the country's direction. Turning her attention to the broader issue of domestic terrorism, Cash described recent incidents as acts of domestic terrorism and called for stronger leadership to address these challenges. She criticized the government's response as inadequate, noting that only 5 visas had been cancelled since October 2023 for individuals espousing values contrary to those of Australia. This statistic, she argued, undermines claims that the government is prioritising the safety of Australians. Cash highlighted the recently announced framework by the Home Affairs Minister, Tony Burke, aimed at combating political and radical violence. However, she questioned the government's commitment to tackling antisemitism, pointing out that the issue was mentioned only once in the strategy document and was grouped alongside Islamophobia. This, she argued, exemplifies what she sees as Labor's tendency to appease various community factions rather than taking definitive action. On the topic of Australia's rising unemployment rate, Cash discussed its implications for the upcoming election. She acknowledged that cost of living pressures remain a central concern for Australians. Drawing attention to recent labour market data, she noted a significant rise in the number of Australians working multiple jobs, now at its highest level since records began in 1994. This increase, she argued, reflects the economic struggles faced by many under the current government. Cash criticised the government for failing to deliver on its promises of improving Australians' quality of life. She urged voters to judge the Prime Minister not by his rhetoric leading up to the election but by the tangible outcomes of his policies. For her, the cost of living crisis and the growing reliance on multiple jobs are clear indicators that life has become more challenging for many Australians. As the conversation ended, Cash's firm stance on the need for decisive action and accountability echoed strongly. Her insights serve as a reminder of the complex challenges Australia faces and the critical role leadership plays in navigating these issues. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates on Australian politics.